traders, and welcome to another exciting edition of our weekly XAUSD and GBPUSD trade analysis. Okay, so I'm excited to be here with you as we dive into the dynamic world of forex trading. So in today's video, we'll be dissecting the price action for XAUSD and GBPUSD, identifying key and potential levels on the charts, and discussing potential strategies for the week ahead.
So right here on my screen is GBPUSD on the daily time frame. As you can see here, there are some marked out zones that are very vital on the daily time frame, of which we will be analyzing for this week. So as you can see, I have two resistance zones right here that are very key for the daily time frame. This is one of them right here, and this is also another very key resistance zone, of which we will be looking at very clearly. So as you can see, there are three support zones that we have marked out on the daily time frame. This is one of them. This is also another support zone that we've marked out, and this is a very valid support zone right here. So guys, let's dive into the analysis for the daily time frame on GBPUSD. So for GBPUSD on the daily time frame, remember for last week we were expecting price to move up from where it was to respect this resistance zone, or possibly respect this trend line before coming down, of which price did exactly what we were expecting. So for this week, guys, as you can see on my screen, this is a very valid resistance zone for which price respected right here, and also came back to respect it right here before the rejections right here. So we'll be expecting a continuation to the downside for price to come down to respect this support zone right here. I'll just move this over to the left. We're expecting price to come down to respect this support zone right here, or possibly the next support below. But on the flip side, if price decides to reverse or continue upward, we'll be expecting price to come back to respect this resistance zone before there's a drop to the downside. We're expecting a continuation to the downside for GBPUSD, for price to respect this support zone right here, or possibly break out of it to the next support zone just below. But on the flip side, if price decides to continue upward, we'll be expecting price to move upward to respect this trend line, or possibly the resistance zone right here before a reversal to the downside, guys. So let's move on to the 4 hours time frame, guys, so that we can see some other key zones that we need to be looking out for on GBPUSD for the coming week, guys. So guys, this is GBPUSD on the 4 hours time frame. This was where price tested this resistance zone right here before coming down. As you can see, price came back to retest the resistance zone before dropping. So I'll just zoom out right here so we can get a clearer picture. So for next week, we'll be expecting price to continue from where it is to this support zone right here, or possibly the next support zone just below. Since price has respected this resistance zone right here, we'll be expecting price to continue downward from where it is to this support zone right here. But on the flip side, if price decides to reverse upward, we'll be expecting price to either respect this trend line right here, this very valid trend line, or possibly move upward to respect this resistance zone right here. So we are expecting a continuation of price to the downside, for price to continue downside to respect this support zone right here, or possibly break out of it just like we expected in the daily time frame to respect the support just below that. But on the flip side, if price decides to reverse upward, since it has shown a double bottom right here on the 4 hours time frame, so we are expecting price to move upward to respect this trend line, or possibly the resistance zone right here. So guys, we'll move over to the 1 hour time frame on GBPUSD, guys. So right here on my screen is the 1 hour time frame for GBPUSD. As you can see, the zones are becoming more visible and more clear on the smaller time frame, guys. So as you can see right here, price came here to touch this resistance zone right here before moving downward, guys. Okay, so for next week, we're expecting price to come back to retest this resistance zone right here before there's a drop to the downside. But on the flip side, if price decides to continue downward from where it is, we're expecting price to continue downward to break this support right here, before continuing to the support right here. Remember, on the 1 hour time frame, we're expecting price to move downward to this support zone. On the lower time frame, which is the 1 hour time frame, we're expecting price to move upward to respect this resistance zone right here before there's a drop to the downside. But on the flip side, if price decides to continue downward, we'll be expecting price to break this support zone right here. This is a support zone. We're expecting price to break it before continuing downward to the next support zone just below. So generally for GBPUSD, we'll be expecting some downward movement since price is already on a downtrend. So we'll be expecting price to move downward to respect this support zone just below, or possibly the next support zone just below that. But on the flip side, if price decides to break out of the resistance right here, we'll be expecting price to move upward to respect either this resistance or possibly move to the next very valid resistance right above that. So that will be all for GBPUSD, guys. Let's move over to XAUUSD so we can also see some zones that we need to be printing some cash for next week, guys. Okay, right here on my screen is XAUUSD, as you all know. So for this week, so we'll be looking at some key zones just like the ones we've rightly drawn on the screen. As you can see, this is a very valid support zone for XAUUSD that has been holding for a while. So this is also a resistance zone that has been holding for a while. This is another resistance zone. So right here, as you can see, price came back to retest this support zone before moving upward to this zone. For XAUUSD, guys, for next week, we'll be expecting a drop from XAUUSD, for price to come down to respect this support zone right here before there's a reversal to the upside. But on the flip side, if price decides to continue upward, then we'll be expecting price to move upward to respect this resistance zone right here before there's a reversal to the downside. So I'll just draw that out real quick on the daily time frame, guys. So right here, we'll be expecting price to continue downward, to respect this support zone right here before there's even a reversal to the upside. But on the flip side, if price decides to continue upward from where it is, we're expecting price to move upward to respect either this newly formed high, which is a resistance zone right here, possibly move upward to respect the very valid resistance zone which has been holding for a while, guys. So let's move on to the 4 hours time frame so we can get a clearer picture of these zones, guys. Alright, guys, so this is the 4 hours time frame for XAUUSD gold. Remember, we always do a top-down analysis on each of these pairs. So right here on the 4 hours time frame for XAUUSD, as you can see, this is a very valid resistance zone which was visible on the daily time frame. So for next week on XAUUSD on the 4 hours time frame, we'll be expecting a drop from price, for price to come down to respect this support zone right here. But on the flip side, if price decides to reverse to the upside, we're expecting price to move upward to respect this resistance zone right here, or possibly break out of it to the next resistance zone, which is right here. So for next week on XAUUSD, we'll be expecting price since it came back to respect this resistance zone, this high right here, we'll be expecting price to move downward to respect this support zone right here. But on the flip side, if price decides to reverse from where it is, that's to break out of this very high right here, to break out of this high, we'll be expecting price to move upward to this, respect this resistance zone here, or possibly the next resistance zone just above. So we'll be expecting price a continuation downward, like I said. But if price decides to break out of this high right here, we'll be expecting price to continue upward from where it is to respect this resistance zone, which is the previous high, or possibly the next resistance zone just above, guys. So real quick, we'll move over to the 1 hour time frame so we can also see some zones that we need to pay attention for the coming week, guys, on XAUUSD. This is the 1 hour time frame for XAUUSD gold. As you can see, the zones that we marked out are still visible and clear. So for next week, without wasting much of our time, we'll be expecting price to continue downward, like I said, since it's already on the down. So we'll be expecting price to continue downward, for price to continue downward to respect this zone right here. Remember, price has to break out of this low right here, so I'll just mark that out real quick. Let's mark out some zones right here. So for next week on XAUSD on the 1 hour time frame, we're expecting price to break out of this uniform support zone to the next support zone just below, or possibly the support zone after that. But on the flip side, so if price decides to reverse from where it is, that's to continue upward, we'll be expecting price, like I said before, to continue upward to either respect this resistance zone right here before dropping, or possibly break out of it to the next resistance zone, very valid resistance zone just above. So guys, generally for XAUSD, we're expecting some downward movement for XAUSD for the coming week. We're expecting price to continue downward to the support zones, either of the support zones just below. But on the flip side, if it decides to continue upward, we're expecting price to break out of this resistance zone right here before continuing to the next resistance zone just above. Okay guys, thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of our weekly forecast. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and also turn on the notification so as to get notified on whenever we post our weekly forecast. And also guys, please don't forget to join us on our weekly webinars, which are hosted every Wednesdays. You can check through the description of this video to get the link to our Telegram channel. Please don't miss out on the webinars. It's always educative, always captivating, and we share insights on forex trading as a whole. Please join us. Much love from 15xFX. See you next week, same time, same station. GMGM guys.